Hua Long Dianjing, and welcome to Shift+F1, a podcast about speed race cars. That, by the way, is Chinese for drawing a dragon and adding the eyes. An expression meaning to add a small detail that makes everything come to life. Mercedes added a small and very young detail to their driver roster, who it seems has finally come to life. I'm Drew Scanlon. Joining me, Danny O'Dwyer. How are you, Danny?
I'm doing great. I thought for a second you were saying Happy St. Patrick's Day in Chinese to me, which would have been appropriate and new. I've never had that happen to me. So if you are Chinese and you meet me on March 17th in the future, please say Lo Fei La Pork Sonadit, but in Chinese. I'd really appreciate it.
Wow, all right. Also joining us, Rob Zachney. How are you, Rob?
Shouldn't we be moving on to Arabic or like Bedouin idiomatic turns of phrase around this time?
Rob, I've got some bad news for you.
Uh-oh. Did history continue to happen?
Keep politics out of this podcast, Rob. Come on, man. Stop forcing your ideology into the F1 calendar.
If you're new to this podcast, a very warm welcome to you. And if you are new to Formula One itself, we've got an episode just for you. Our preseason primer assumes no prior F1 knowledge and explains how the sport works and who everybody is. So if you'd like to go back and listen to that, it's episode 338. Also, the show would not be possible without our audience over at patreon.com/shiftf1, where every month we release ad-free versions of the podcast early, along with bonus pods and videos exclusively for our patrons that cover racing documentaries and films, F1 video games, experiments with other racing series, and a lot of weird things. So if you would like to support the show and get access to all that fun stuff, head over to patreon.com/shiftf1 or click the link in the show notes. What do we have going on this month, Danny?
We just recorded, last week we put up the first 3 episodes of, 3. There's only 6, no, 4? 4. Okay. 4. There are 8 episodes of Drive to Survive in season 8.
No, you're right. There's basically 6. Sorry, yes. I got to stop backing on it, but we did our part 2.
You're right.
It was, we have rarely taken such a 90-degree turn on a season of Drive to Survive.
Yes. Yeah, we were full of flowers for the first episode, which is already up for patrons. This Friday, patrons will get access to the second episode, which covers the back end of Drive to Survive Season 8, the final 4 episodes. But yes, we have had a bit of a shift of enjoyment between those 2 particular halves of the season of Drive to Survive. But yeah, that'll be up this Friday, so we basically did them back to back. And we'll figure out something fun for next month, because we're going to have a bit of a podcast hole to fill by the looks of things. And of course, massive thanks to all of our incredible title sponsors. The Military Industrial Complex. Man, their business is booming.
Big year for them.
Yeah. Warizzle, RIP Egberto and Igor Furman. TVGP.tv, that video game podcast. Let's Margo Racing. Eaching Wells. Dr. V. Deange, It's a Me Ferrario, AI Generated Content, Mojo Nixon, Get Rich O'Dai Ryan, Agave ATX, Cyphers Training, Turf SCS, Michael Maves Still Hates Cigarettes, Telemetry Deck Racing Team, FTC, Bottas Not Last, Drew Stewart, Super Clippy, Bailey Foot, Abraham Getchell, The H Button, Happy 30th birthday, Patrick. Hey, good day for Patrick, good month for Patrick, as it turns out. Fiends 5, Warren, Snigs, Nicotine Pouches, Alex Couchet, Max Faltar Keyboards, Jeff Foster, Troy Stammer, William Romph, Lachlan the Maddened Man, who I've always had a sort of oh, bless you, Rob. Oh my lord.
I may not be done, but I'm trying. Like I can't control
he might
this.
have a
We're
sneeze.
just at the mercy of this.
He might have a sneeze. Oh, he's had another one. This is diegetic.
All the snow melted. It happened immediately. Like the snow melted. Temperature came up by like 20 degrees.
Oh.
Everyone in the house is just
fever.
Dogs running up to us and just like wiping their faces against our legs like all the time. Like, oh, I love you so much. I love you. Oh, you are human tissue. Just let me have pants leg. So
wow.
We're all taking allergy pills. It's horrible.
Okay, I'm sorry for you. Now I have to decide whether or not that sneeze was diegetic and I need to keep it in the podcast, or if I can spare people by dipping your levels. People who are
Maybe
listening.
you can give them one little sneeze.
One little sneeze? Could you give me one?
Take it down
Because
by
those are two
60
big
feet.
sneezes.
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking you just artificially using production magic, like
Oh, I could just
sneeze.
guess. I'll do AI sneeze. But
I want
Yeah, and then you
side
give me like
chain
a cute
compression.
little mouse sneeze, like cartoon mouse sneeze.
Oh, that'd be
like,
better.
that people at home they hear like kerchoo,
yes,
and then I talk about allergies.
a very sweet one. That's good. I like it. Lachlan the Madden Man, who I've always sort of thought of as like some sort of Irish mythological figure, like Cuchulainn, you know? He's like sort of Lachlan the Maddened Man. Samurai Love Story and Jason Kelly, thank you all so much. Happy St. Patrick's Day to all of you. I've also noticed that myself and Rob are both wearing green. I am actually completely accidentally. That's not something we do in Ireland on Paddy's Day.
Didn't occur to me until
great.
this was just my heaviest sweater. It was just, and also
This was
crucially,
my lightest.
my heavy sweater that I just had lying out because
Yeah.
God forbid you ever just fold and put away a sweater.
No.
You just sort of
No,
like
no,
dump it somewhere until you need it again.
We just have hooks all over the house. So we just have like hoodies hanging in every room. So I just grabbed this on the way down as well. So it was meant to be. And Drew,
But
on
maybe
the other
this is
hand,
the year I watch The Quiet Man again. Like it's been a while, but maybe it's time for a John Ford, like sentimental pastiche of Irish culture.
I've never seen it.
I'd be curious what you make of it.
Okay.
But we'll put a pin in that.
I've also never seen Darby
Hold
O'Gill and
on.
the Little People. So, is there a car in it?
Then- But there is a race. A race is central to the action of The Quiet Man.
Like a foot race?
A derby. A amateur horse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Horsepower, you know? What are horses if not meat cars, you know? That's what people call them. Flesh
Yep,
cars.
and that's why Christian Horner got into them. He was like, "I've got my metal cars, but I want my meat cars."
He just likes having things to boss around, I think.
Yeah.
That's why he's into it. Drew's wearing red, the color of the old enemy, but don't worry about it.
The color, Danny, of China.
Oh, there you
We've
go.
got two races here, a sprint race and a race. The first.
That's what they're called.
The 6 sprint weekends we're going to have this year. Or did we lose one? I can't remember if we've lost one yet. We'll have to consult the calendar.
Yeah, let me look into that.
But let's kick things off here with the sprint grid. On sprint pole, George Russell, followed by his teammate Kimi Antonelli in the other Mercedes, who escaped a penalty for blocking Norris, who said over the radio, like, I was on a push lap. Turns out he was on a pushing warm-up lap.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure what that means, but
This is the new battery stuff, right? Sometimes they take a little bit of time longer because they're
guess so.
trying to charge
Also-
the battery and also get the tires in the right temp.
There was a ton of track evolution, so I think they were all like prepping the cars for extended stints, so you could always like claim that you were about to do a push lap. It was just bad timing. Like
Right.
Antonelli probably should have. He was trying to keep out of the way, but he like where the timing worked out. He is entering the inside of the apex right as Lando is beginning to swing in for turn one to hit that apex. Antonelli's clearly off of it. That was probably a thing where he needed to just like break a little more and just fully let Lando by. But you know, these guys don't have spotters like they do in IndyCar, for instance. So you know, I think
they got their team looking at like the track map so they can see other cars like on the GPS.
yeah, but then so many of the
location,
drivers are weird about like don't talk to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like they don't get the positioning data, the relative positioning data that like drivers in other series do.
Lando Norris lines up third for the sprint, followed by Lewis Hamilton. Ferrari, by the way, they tried the rotating rear wing again in practice.
Why are they
this
calling it the
weekend.
Macarena rear wing?
Oh,
That
really?
I couldn't understand. I did not follow
Like,
that
do the
up.
British have some sort of fucked up understanding of the Macarena?
I don't know why that's the Macarena. No, I heard them call it the, what do you call it when you, rotisserie? I heard them call it.
Oh,
That
nice.
makes sense.
Yeah.
But the Macarena doesn't. That's
Yeah.
nothing about that. Is what the wing does.
I saw that on Autosport, and maybe I will.
No, Ruth Buscombe is called like on F1 TV. They're calling it the
don't
Macarena
get it.
wing. I don't get it.
I've danced the Macarena many times in, you know, Portuguese vacation resorts, but no, I don't get that reference.
Huh. Okay. Well, Oscar Piastri will line up. Oh, I'm sorry. To just finish that, they brought it this week, the rotating rear wing. From what I gather, it does provide a significant improvement in straight line speed, but they are not yet confident about its reliability.
Ah, yes.
So that's why they're not running it. I think they're going to bring it to Japan as well. So we'll see. I don't know. I'd love to see it in a race because it's just so weird. Lining up fifth, Oscar Piastri, followed by Charles Leclerc. Pierre Gasly in seventh, followed by Max Verstappen, who was upset with Gasly being on the racing line in Q2. That presumably caused Verstappen to go off at the final corner. But they both went on to Q3. Oliver Behrman in ninth and Isaac Hadjar 10th. Behind them, we've got Hulkenberg, Ocon, Lawson, Bortoleto, Lindblad in 15th. Although this is maybe too much inside baseball. I tried it when I'm blasting through. I don't say the numbers until halfway through the bulk of numbers that I'm saying. But now that we've got 22, I need to stop at 16 just to orient.
Okay, yeah.
All right, so 16th, Colapinto. Then Sainz, Alonso, Stroll, Bottas, and then Perez, who did not take part in qualifying for problems with his car, and then Alex Albon in 22nd, starting from the pit lane because his car was modified under Parc Fermé conditions. All right, Danny, do you want to take us through the sprint start?
Sure. I mean, there was I've always done the starts. Starts have been easy for years. It's been a real layup. You know what I mean? Like I've swanned up to the podcast. I've rewatched the start, and I've gone, oh yeah, okay, that's what happened. Now starts have become just chaos. Like who's not going to get off the line? Who's going to throw it down a corner that no one ever does before? And we got two of these this weekend. So right off the bat, when the lights went out in the sprint, Kimi Antonelli, horrible start, gets gobbled up by everyone. In the background, you can see a Red Bull also having a bad start, getting overtaken by another Red Bull, as it turns out. That was Max Verstappen. Second time in a row, this guy has not had a good jump off the line. So they get down to that first turn. You've got Russell in front, then Lando is ahead. But Lewis Hamilton in this Ferrari with its tiny, tiny little turbo, which seems to help it on its starts, decides to go up the inside of this multi-apex turn 1, 2, 3 situation, and does a fantastic job of getting up the inside of Lando Norris. Incredibly well defended, I would say, not overly aggressive, and then he swoops down and he gets into a second place from there. And then I believe it's Kimi Antonelli ends up having a bit of contact. His start obviously not great. Yeah, knocks into Hadjar, who had two not great first laps this weekend. Somebody lost some barge board or side pod or something.
I think it was Hadjar.
Was it Hadjar? Yeah, a bit flies off of his car. And then Leclerc manages to get past Lando as well. So we end up having this great little fight between Ferrari and the McLarens, but really the fight looks like between Ferrari and Mercedes on these opening laps.
So real quick, does anyone remember turn 1, 2, 3 being this action-packed under the previous regs? This is the turn we joked about it being like the ramp of a car park.
Yes,
and it kind of felt that
yeah.
way, where it's kind of a tricky technical back and forth, cool corner profile, but is not a place that sits in my head as it's always happening at turn, like through that first corner complex.
Yeah, turn one for sure into that sort of braking zone after the straight was a place that people could fight back, but because of the back straight, which predominantly the braking zone of that was where a lot of overtaking happened. So it wasn't like all the time, but certainly not into turns 2 and 3. Like you had some people throw it up the inside. You had some people attempt to go around the outside on the dirty part of the track so they could get into the apex super aggressively on turn 3, but like not this side by side style overtaking. And also, like, I think the thing that we'll probably talk about in this race as well that we mentioned last week is that like these cars can follow so much closer that like it's kind of opening up parts all over the track, and we saw it on this in both these races in sector, like the start of sector, like in the middle of sector 2. Like there was overtaking happening on like turns 7 and 8, and you're like, okay.
Well, and something I really dig here in these opening laps is my notes are basically just like Russell Hamilton, like jockeying for position. But it feels like what you see happening is them trying to figure out they are both changing where they are deploying energy
Yeah.
and where they are trying to hold it back lap by lap to try to figure out how to make an overtake stick. As we've seen, like Ferrari gets these fast starts here, and the Hamilton's able to get to P1, at the start of the second lap, but they are fighting all the way through, the next several laps, and admittedly, it did feel to me like it was a matter of time before the Mercedes overall pace won out. But Russell, it felt like he really had to figure out, how am I going to get past Hamilton? Because the usual tricks where you just like hold enough energy, you pass on the straight, and you got enough back to also deploy a little bit on the following straight, that wasn't working this time. You needed to be like deploying and harvesting much more tactically across the lap. And I think made for a really fun battle in these opening laps.
Yeah, Lindblad unfortunately has a spin that drops him to the back. And then we have Hamilton finally on lap 2 retaking it around the outside of turn 1 into the lead. Lap 2, also Antonelli trying to make up some ground. He gets by Behrman and Gasly within a couple of corners.
That pass on Behrman was cool. Okay, sometimes it goes bad for Antonelli and he makes a little contact, but sometimes he does a cool dive bomb.
Yeah. Yeah. Lap 3 is when Russell hits back again, retaking the lead from Hamilton into the hairpin. But yet again, as you said, Rob, Hamilton gets him on lap 4 around the outside of turn 1. And by this stage, Antonelli is now hounding the McLarens of Piastri and Norris in 5th and 4th, respectively. He gets by Piastri with a great move up the inside of the final corner. And what do you know? Lap 5, Russell retakes the lead from Hamilton at the hairpin. Lap 7, Antonelli gets by Norris in the same place, although he is running with that 10-second penalty after crunching into the side of Hadjar. Lap 8, Hamilton is passed by Leclerc on the inside of turn 1. Hamilton trying to retake around the outside, but no dice. One lap later, though, he tries the inside and nearly gets it done. Leclerc fights back, and somehow they do not hit each other as they get through that first turn complex. More of that later.
I don't understand. The other thing is, do the cars have... We know that there's like side wash on race cars, right? That like if you watch oval racing of any stripe, there's a bit of draft you can do, even when you're not directly behind the other driver. If you sort of tuck into where... If you think about the blind spots on a car or a semi, there's a little bit of draft effect there. And it feels like in previous years, it was tough to hold side-by-side position because like you would run into so much turbulence in those positions. And also the cars are bigger. They can't take as many lines to the corners.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that like Russell and Hamilton and then Leclerc and Hamilton are just side by side fighting over, in my head, it feels like one of the tighter corner complexes on the calendar.
I think a big part of this, and like it's weird, right? Because these regulations, sometimes we always want to come down and say like, oh, these are better or these are worse than the previous regs or previous years, and we're always judging it, and that's fine. That's part of the whole process of watching sport. But the thing that like is so strange about this year is that qualifying is often feel dire because of this super clipping stuff. But then the races end up being like really interesting, but with a rule set that we're not familiar with. So for a lot of people, it's like the racing is good, but it feels off. Kind of like when you're a new F1 fan, you don't understand a lot of the specifics. Like I feel like a lot of us right now don't really understand the specifics of regen and deployment and stuff. But the thing that I think is ultimately yards better about these cars this year, not only is it the fact that they can follow each other, but they're so much racier than the past regulate. Like, they look so much better. They're able to throw them into corners. They're able to like hold grip on the edge. They're so much more like, the fronts of these cars can just turn and point, and the rears have so much torque that I think that that's what's allowing these cars to follow each other, because there was an element of sort of Scalextrics, slot car racing to the other ones, where once they got to a certain speed, they kind of were stuck on their arc. You know, it was like a missile being shot. You know what I mean? And that's not the case anymore. So,
and they look so good. I have a note here on lap 3. Russell's exiting onto the big straight, and his car starts fishtailing as he's trying to get the jump on Hamilton to get out of the corner, exit early. And like, we talked before about how when things look fast in F1, usually that means they're slow. That's not a good thing.
right. Yeah.
Like, it's been for years a series that, like, the stuff that we associate with, like, in a car chase scene in a movie or like an arcade racing game, sliding through a corner, the back end stepping out, all this stuff is bad. If a driver does that, they kind of screwed up. We're seeing that a lot more, and it doesn't necessarily mean there was a screw up. It's just like they're trying to like find these margins, and the cars let you, they're just loose enough to have the stuff happen and it not to be like game over. So it was a hell of an opening to the sprint. Brought the action was starting to slow down before Hülkenberg stopped to bring out the safety car. We did sort of hit the part where the field felt like it had sorted out a bit, and maybe tires were going off, and then Hülkenberg has to stop, and we get the rare everyone pits in a sprint race.
A sprint race pit. How about that?
Yeah.
I was
a double stack as well at Ferrari.
I guess it makes sense
and McLaren.
'cause, you know, the field's very close still in a short race, and they didn't know how long the safety car was going to be out.
Yeah.
But yeah, the double stack allows Norris to get by Hamilton, because Hamilton's behind Leclerc, has to wait for him to serve his stop. And then Antonelli also had to serve his 10-second penalty in this pit stop. We do restart on lap 17 of 19.
He didn't have to, right?
Sorry?
Do you have to? I'm forgetting.
if you come in, you have to serve.
You have
if you
to.
stayed out,
right.
he could have
Right.
had to be a time penalty.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
But it would have been catastrophic if he had
yeah.
done that, because the field's compressed.
Totally.
Like, that is how you turn a 10-second penalty into
15
being blown out of
losses.
the points. Yeah.
Yeah. Piastri, though, on the restart, it looks like, and I think Antonelli called this out, he passes Antonelli before the line, which is a no-no. Like, the safety car pulls off, and then the field goes, but you can't overtake until you hit the line.
Yeah, Antonelli overrun the last turn and ended up in the gravel slightly. So I feel for Piastri on this, because
Oh, I missed that.
Oh.
yeah, he
That's-
had a terrible exit out of the last turn.
Oh.
So Piastri is getting on the gas and almost avoiding him.
That's
Okay.
interesting, because that makes me think maybe he shouldn't have. You're if somebody screws up under safety car conditions and you pass them, I think you're allowed to hold that position, aren't you?
If they spin, for sure, but I don't. I think because this was them getting on the gas, green flag. If anything, he should have just given the position back quick, I think.
No.
But yeah, it was a bit rough.
Well, all right, just to finish this off, lap 19, Hamilton gets by Norris on the start-finish straight. Ferrari's just in general looking very strong against the defending Constructors' champions. And a lap later, Antonelli gets by Lawson for 6th place, and then is let through by Piastri, whose team tells him to give Antonelli back the position because of that safety car infringement. But that is how we end. George Russell wins the sprint in the Chinese Grand Prix. Charles Leclerc 2nd and Lewis Hamilton 3rd, followed by Lando Norris in 4th, Kimi Antonelli 5th, Oscar Piastri 6th, Liam Lawson 7th, and the final points-paying position, 8th place, goes to Oliver Behrman. Behind them, Max Verstappen, who had a rough one. He passed Ocon and Bortoleto at the same time into turn 1, but then locks up a little later, allowing Ocon and Hadjar through. He did end up passing Hadjar after that, and that was before the pit stop, so that's why he's in 9th, and Hadjar, his teammate, is in 15th. But yes, top 10 finishing off here, Esteban Ocon in 10th place. Then we got Pierre Gasly, Carlos Sainz, Gabriel Bortoleto, Franco Colapinto, Isaac Hadjar, Alex Albon in 16th. Excuse me. Fernando Alonso 17th. Lance Stroll. Oh boy,
It's getting emotional about Stroll.
Allergy season, baby.
that's right. Lance Stroll.
I don't get any of the allergies, but my biggest problem is that like bugs love my blood. So I just get like eaten alive by mosquitoes. I have 2 bites on my feet at the moment.
So I think
I was wearing socks.
possibilities. Is
Okay.
it possible that you are not native to these shores and you didn't develop allergies to the stuff that Drew and I are allergic to?
Okay.
Since childhood.
That seems like the opposite of evolution. You know what I mean?
It is, but allergies are weird. Where if you're not exposed to something, it doesn't like exposure triggers the allergy presentation. Is the weird thing. Even so, if something's completely benign, but you have an allergy to it, frequently that is because you're exposed to it. If you weren't at a certain point, you never developed that response to it. But yeah, the other thing I'll say is it is definitely a sticking point where for me, my wife MK is the person that bugs like, and I feel guilty because it is the equivalent of having like a bug light with me out in our yard, because I will like, it is so drastic what happens when we go outside. She'll be like, these bugs are crazy, I'm getting eaten alive.
Yeah.
And I have dead ass said like, what bugs?
Oh, that's yeah. I get
Like for me it is like perfect, pristine, like clear night. Man,
Wow.
another bug-free year. And it's because like they aren't troubling me at all. She is like in a swarm.
she's
And
like
I'm
one of
just
those
hanging out, like-
one of those lamps just go zzz, zzz every 2 seconds. The biggest problem is once one of them gets you, then it like encourages the others.
Oh, yeah.
Like, yeah. There's like a pheromone or something. I don't know how
Hey,
it works.
guys.
But
Yeah.
yeah. Hey, this one's delicious. Okay, poor me and MK have to get on the same.
And she is also of the
support
fairer
group.
skin.
Okay, yeah.
So that is we are both have mixed heritage with a decent amount of Irish, but she takes after the fairer skin Dutch Irish
Love it.
model.
Love it.
Sergio Perez in 19th. And then the DNFs of Nico Hulkenberg, Valtteri Bottas, and Arvid Lindblad. Perez also received a 5-second time penalty for a safety car infringement. And here's the race grid, everyone. After real qualifying, the youngest
what they
pole
call it.
sitter ever, Kimi Antonelli, starting first. Behind him, the other Mercedes of George Russell, who had to stop on track early in Q3 with a problem.
I think it was the end of Q2, right? Where he starts saying there's a problem and the team is gaslighting him a little bit. Where they're like, no, it looks fine. He's like,
He's like,
not.
no, I'm stopped on the track.
The safety lights are triggered, which I'm not sure is a driver controlled setting.
No, I don't think so.
He's sitting there with the yellow flashers on. So something was up, and then they barely got him onto track for Q3. So he had one lap to try and set a time, and Antonelli been out the entire time. So like Russell was clearly backfooted for Q3, but if I'm Russell, this is not where I wanted the season to be heading, because I don't want to be in a fight with the heir apparent.
George Russell qualifies second, 2/10 off of Kimi Antonelli. Another 2/10 back, Lewis Hamilton in third, followed by Charles Leclerc in fourth. And then qualifying fifth and sixth, Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris, but both will be recorded as a DNS. Did not start. They are both wheeled into the garage with two separate.
For like, I turn on the race the next day,
God.
and I use red for anything that's like really important and like overall race status. And yeah, you tune to the race, and it's like Piastri pushed off the grid. Norris never left the garage. Albon pit lane start. Spoiler: no, he ain't. Bortoleto pushed off the grid.
It was crazy because like I was watching the pre-race and all eyes were on Lando the whole time because he never got his car out of the garage. Yeah. And then literally the race intro starts and then they come back and it's like Piastri is now being wheeled in. So like it was like whoa, the other one, like, and you know, apparently unrelated issues, both of them electrical in nature. So we have a empty third row.
That's right.
Drew, after you do the grid, there's something I want to talk about before the race, real quick.
Okay.
Go on.
And speaking of that empty third row, who was it who was in the fourth row? Somebody.
Pierre Gasly.
Gasly drove up and reversed. I did not know you were allowed reverse on the start grid. I thought you'd
think
get in trouble for that.
You absolutely do if you're in the pit lane.
Yes, you're not allowed
I think
reverse
on
there.
the grid before the lights go out, you can reverse back into your pit box or your grid box to make sure that you're not starting too far forward. But yeah, I mean, you see a blank spot, you want to fill it. It's also got to feel good for Gasly to be ahead of both Red Bulls again, as he was in the sprint to qualify.
Oh, don't worry. A lot of people will be behind the Red Bulls in half a lap.
Yeah. Max Verstappen starts 8th, Isaac Hadjar 9th, and Oliver Behrman 10th. But again, we got the two spot gap for these guys. Nico Hulkenberg 11th, Franco Colapinto 12th, Esteban Ocon 13th, Liam Lawson 16th, Arvid Lindblad 16th. Bortoletto would be in 16th, but he is also a DNS. He also, in qualifying, spun in the final corner that brought out a yellow flag, meaning I think both Red Racing Bulls cars had to slow down.
Big faux pas. Don't spin in Sector 3 in qualifying. That's, you're not going to make any friends at the office doing that.
17th, Sainz, followed by Alonso, Bottas, Stroll, Perez, and then Albon, who also registered a DNS. Rob.
Okay, it turns out there's two things I want to bring up. One, everyone noticed the fact that Flavio Briatore hugged Colapinto after qualifying. And Coulthard is immediately, did Flavio get notes back about Drive to Survive? Is he trying a softer, nicer Flavio? He's like, Flavio is nice, but now he's acting nice.
Maybe a little bit of nah.
I do wonder,
Just a couple.
Did it finally register with him that, like, oh my God, I just come off as a huge fucking asshole?
I doubt it. I doubt he cares.
I doubt it too, but it is funny him trying something different. But the other thing
he was trying to crush him.
Yeah, like, well, again, like what could be like a more Italian, Italo-French gesture than like a close embrace. Looks affectionate, and then you do the Michael Corleone, like I know it was you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a handshake where both people are squeezing and holding too long.
But the other thing, they were talking about this, I think it was during Weekend Warm Up, which is the show that F1 TV does before Practice 1. They were talking about how pissed a lot of the Mercedes customer teams are because they have the full Mercedes engine, but they basically got no manual, no notes, no settings guidance. They were delivered a hunk of metal electronics and were told basically to figure it out.
That's funny.
And everyone knows that, like, any engine you're doing electronic tuning, you are finding settings, and like you never expect the engine manufacturer to give you the keys to the kingdom. But the feeling from hearing the F1 TV crew, Ruth Buscombe, talking about it, it feels like it rubbed people really the wrong way because, well, one, Mercedes has this like half second to lap advantage that is large, like part coming from the engine. But two, and this part I can't work out. Is it just people? It's competitive and people are sort of trying to work the refs and sort of complaining, or has Mercedes kind of breached the typical like gentleman's agreement, the collegial relationship, where it's like, you don't do this. Like, you help your team, you help your customers actually know how to get performance out of your engine. You don't just like have someone drop it off on their doorstep and leave. And there's like literally not even like a fax.
It's like getting a Nintendo dev kit.
Yeah. Build this furniture without a piece of paper with what to do on it. Yeah. Where's the boost button? We can't find it.
It's there. Just keep looking. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. They are, by the rules, compelled to sell engines, but maybe the rules don't say anything about a manual. All right, let's start the Chinese Grand Prix, shall we? Danny, do you want to take us through this one?
Yeah, let's do it. Once again, those Ferraris are super fast off the line and immediately hunting down the Mercedes. Hamilton manages to get ahead of Kimi Antonelli. Leclerc also attempts to do it, but Antonelli manages to protect against that, although it was a bit hairy going into turn 3. Even hairier was our good friend Sergio Perez, who has exploded onto the F1 scene and learned nothing from his previous years by immediately hitting the side pod of Valtteri Bottas and spinning out on turn 1.
Going around the outside of a close corner. It's like this is what he would do this annually at Austria, turn 4, I want to say, where it's like, I can make this work, and he never can. But he has some sort of like terminal cognitive disorder that makes him like that, especially in these scenarios, he turns into a public lobby driver in a racing game where it's like, hey, there was a gap around the outside. I could go there.
Who's not having problems is Isaac Hadjar, because he avoided his teammate Max Verstappen, who for the 3rd race in a row, Max Verstappen, who last year when we were talking about those starts and is Lando going to get off the line, well, because Max is a done deal. Max is like, he's like kicking field goals. This guy doesn't miss. Verstappen is now 3 for 3 on terrible starts. So there's something wrong with that car, something wrong with Max, but either way, he's not having fun in these new regulations. And it's not because of his performance, but,
Yeah, or
maybe a little
it?
bit, buddy.
Racefan says a good quote from him. He says, "When I released the clutch, I had no power, no momentum, but I think there was something wrong on my part with the procedure, so I need to check on that." Okay. It was probably a similar issue to what Liam had in Melbourne. So I think like a lot of this stuff, partially the new cars, partially the new drivers adapting to the new cars, but it's hard to tell which and when.
Yeah, and it's more complicated. Got to spin up that turbo and keep it within a certain RPM window, and which they had to a little bit in previous regs,
but it's longer. It's like
longer,
it used to be. You had to mostly just worry about the clutch buy point.
Yeah,
and then you had to worry about hitting the rev target, and now you have to do all of that, and you have to hit and perfectly hold rev target for much longer, you don't get the. I think there's another reason why the Mario Kart comparison comes up. Mario Kart always, since its inception, had the boost off the line. If you timed the revs right, and that literally happens with this new regulation.
Yeah, he totally bogs down. It almost looks sort of like anti-stall-ish, except he didn't even move really. So yeah, you can see his second phase. He starts the car. But his teammate has actually a worse time of it as it happens. Ollie Behrman tries, I would say apologies if I'm being unkind to Max, but I would say sort of a Max Verstappen dive up the inside, sort of last regulation style overtake on Hadjar. Kind of forces Hadjar out onto, or Behrman rather, doesn't make the turn properly, manages to go off the track, comes back on, and then Hadjar, ahead of Isaac, and then Hadjar in an attempt to overtake up the inside, maybe slightly dirtier line that he's on, maybe he gets too much torque in the rear wheels, but he lights it up, he gets past Behrman, but then spins, ends up sort of, perpendicular to Behrman, exiting that turn, and Behrman takes some impressive avoiding action to get around Isaac.
It's real. He just snaps that thing out and onto the dirty apron of the track. So real easy to lose the car making that evasive move, but he just he whips the car out of the way and keeps going. Behrman is sometimes he's a little optimistic, but he is exciting.
Yeah. Lap 2, Antonelli swings back around Hamilton on a straight to retake the lead. And behind them, a few corners later, Russell gets by Leclerc into turn 1 for 3rd place. And a lap after that, Russell speeds by Hamilton on the start-finish straight into 2nd. And by the way, I don't know that we mentioned this in the primer, but the commentators will say P2 to mean 2nd place. And it occurred to me watching this race for whatever reason. If you say over the radio, you're in 2nd, that can be ambiguous because that might mean 2nd gear.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's why they say P2 for position 2.
Box.
Also box. And I looked that up too. It's from the German Boxenstopp for pit stop. Yeah.
Boxenstopp. Wow.
Box.
I always thought it just came from pit box, but
Like it's an actual box drawn on the ground. Yeah. I mean, maybe that's what the German is describing.
German is a terrifically unserious language. I like it.
Love it.
Lap 10, Stroll pulls over with an issue in his Aston Martin, and we get a safety car. We did have a number of drivers who started on the hard tire. They stayed out while basically everyone else pits. Interestingly, Hadjar had pitted after his spin. He started on softs, but after the spin, changed to hards. Red Bull still elects to pit him here and put on new hard tires along with Verstappen. So they're not splitting their strategy. They're putting both Red Bulls on hard tires.
And also, thanks to all of these retirements, both of them are halfway to points anyway.
Right.
5 cars out of this race.
It is. This is old school F1 where like the timing stack on the left hand side is like half grayed out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It just gets lower and lower. Yeah.
Go back and watch any race from the 90s, and it is like that. So with all that said and done, the order is Antonelli. He did pit, but he comes out in first. Colapinto and Ocon did not pit. They are in second and third. Then we've got Russell and Hamilton. Lindblad didn't pit. He's now in sixth. Then Leclerc. Hulkenberg also did not pit. He's now in eighth. And then Behrman and Gasly, who did. So, lap 14, Behrman cuts up the inside here on the restart, trying to get by Gasly, which sort of blocks Russell and allows Hamilton to cut back up the inside and snatch fifth. On the next lap, Leclerc also gets around Russell while Hamilton is chasing down Colapinto. And by lap 24, the drivers who have started on hards have slipped back a bit, and now it's Hamilton in second, Leclerc, Russell. They're all clustered together, fighting for second.
Oh, yeah. Those Ferraris start fighting.
So it's maybe too early to say this. There's a lot of season left, but Colapinto, early pick in our house here as most improved driver.
Yeah.
Like he, on his old tires, he is like fighting Thermopylae up there, holding back these cars that should be dusting him. And he is making that car really wide, keeping it in bounds. It's like, it's fair driving, but he puts on a really good defensive performance, extracting a lot from that car. And it does feel like he got off to such a shockingly good start with Williams that there was sort of the shiny object effect. Everyone was like, he's ready for prime time. And then he did the rookie stuff, and the car got worse when he ended up in a worse car with Alpine. And I think like the narrative was really easy to sour on him. It doesn't help he had a toxic fan base that made him a less likable character, even though that wasn't really his fault. But he does appear to be a much steadier driver this year than he was in his Williams debut or last year. And
Behrman
he is consistently fighting well here.
Behrman having a great race as well. Colapinto, though, if he likes fighting Persians, I got some bad news about the F1 calendar later.
Jesus Christ.
Okay. So we're Hamilton second, Leclerc third, Russell fourth. Leclerc gets a run on Hamilton and dives up the inside before the end of this lap. 24. Hamilton then fights back at turn one, getting very close, but Leclerc stays ahead. And then a lap later, tries again, juking out from Leclerc's slipstream and up the inside.
Stripstream?
Retaking the position.
That's on kick.
Leclerc, though, comes back on the start-finish straight around the outside into turn one. And again, they are super close through that turn 2 and 3 complex. Leclerc staying ahead momentarily, but Hamilton again fights back turn after turn, hounding Leclerc, and eventually swoops around at turn 9. But Leclerc does the cutback and takes the place back again. And then Russell gets in on the action, passing Hamilton on the straight, and then Leclerc a lap or two later. And then sets off after his teammate 7.7 seconds up the road. And this, it's an echo of the sprint. And to me, this stuff, it's feeling like MotoGP. Like it is.
Right. Yeah.
It's
MotoGP before they added the aero elements and fucked up MotoGP.
you can maybe it's a result of the smaller cars too. But it's just fascinating to see drivers able to take different lines for their like driver's style to come out. And it's fascinating to see where they deploy the boost. Anthony Davidson on Sky put some real good color on the new regulations and the batteries and stuff that I really needed. So if I'm understanding what he is saying correctly.
I took the same note because it's such a good explanation.
Yes.
He did a great job, by the way, as co-commentator on that feed.
Yeah, I thought he did too. Okay, so basically, again, if I understand this correctly, the car has a baseline map of the optimal places to use the battery's energy over the course of a lap. And it sounds like the car both determines this and deploys the energy automatically without any input from the driver.
Right, and that's consistent with basic throttle mapping that cars have done for years under a lot of regulations where they are based on, because I don't think they're allowed to geolocate on the map. It is literally, the car is allowed to know when a timing bar has been reset. And it basically times like deployment settings and power settings based on the lap time elapsed. So this came up last year when Russell was bogged down because he'd had a bit of a bobble that threw him off, and so the car didn't know thought it was in a different part of the lap because he was going slow and didn't deliver
it's
full
also
power.
Throttle and brake events too, I think, factor into it. So anyway, that baseline is the fastest way around the track. However, the driver can at any moment hit that boost button, which increases the energy deployment for that moment, meaning that you can get a move done, but crucially, you are robbing yourself of energy you could use later in that lap in those optimal areas. So by using boost, you are compromising your overall lap time because you're now outside of that optimal map. But sometimes it makes sense to use it to get track position and use defensive moves to keep the guy behind, even though you're overall going slower.
And if I'm interpreting what he said correctly as well, by using that boost, you are essentially impacting that mapping. You are telling the system that to use more boost maybe or less battery in this part. Was that the case?
Well, you're using it for that time that you're pressing it, and therefore you've still got to complete the lap, and you've only got so much battery left.
Oh, but
you're probably also overriding harvesting settings.
That's what I
guess.
thought.
Yeah,
that it's also impacting the way in which
Well, because it makes sense. You wouldn't want to be hitting boost, and then boost is being countered by the fact it's harvesting. It's trying to like harvest at a certain point. So you're changing that. The other thing that he got into, because I had not been clear how this works, and he gave the clearest explanation of it I have heard. So overtake mode has replaced DRS for the, like, you are within 1 second of the car ahead, and overtake mode gives you extra power deployment for as long as you are in overtake mode. And harvesting, it basically like breaches the limits on the harvesting deployment you're allowed to have access to over a lap, and you get extra for the overtake mode. Now, here is the thing. I had not been clear on this. Even if you don't hit the boost button, overtake mode still gives you extra power because it is working with, I think, the systems that Drew is outlining, but you still get the extra power whether or not you hit the boost button. But if you have overtake enabled and then you hit boost, that is where your car gets an extra 30 kph, basically like just straight off the top. So that becomes a really powerful combo, but an expensive one to deploy. Now, arguably, it's cheaper because overtake mode it changes your battery budget for the lap. But still, I had never been clear how boost was interfacing with overtake, and I had assumed that it was sort of a push to pass situation. It's really not. It is going in at like system level and changing the equation for the harvesting, and then it makes boost more effective.
Right, because overtake just gives you a larger reservoir. So, like you said, Rob, because like you could have overtake and never press the boost button, but you're faster because the map is now using, for the times that it wants to use the battery, it's using more power to do that. So this is all I think. But then yes, when you have overtake and hit the boost button, you are using more energy, and you are allowed to do it at higher speeds for longer than the regular boost button when you don't have overtake. So I was watching, like, I think I watched the battery graphics in Australia the whole time, and they will show whether the driver has overtake and whether they are hitting the boost button. I didn't see anyone hit the boost button in Australia, at least when the graphics were being shown. I did see it here. And the overtake will be green, and then you will see the boost button light up really, or at least the times that I saw it was really brief.
Yeah.
But
graphics pack is really good.
It's great,
for
and
this
I
stuff.
think, from what I can tell, they seem pretty well synchronized to the action.
Yeah.
That was a good decision. I'm glad F1 basically, I think, made them pipe this data straight out to the broadcast and not have it like pass through on delay, because I think it makes it so much more coherent what is happening tactically. Might as well talk about this now, because after the race, Verstappen sort of had the quote of the day, which is like, if you like this type of racing, you don't know racing. These regulations are terrible. The entire thing is an artificial show. And I think I take a lot of that with a grain of salt, because it's Sourpuss Max and his car isn't good under these regs. And this is stylistically a very different thing. And that's the thing I do want to get into a little bit here. I think one reason I like this a lot is in a weird way. So this is, again, this podcast has its origins in video games. And so we have sort of a common frame of reference here when it comes to video games. So I'm going to go back into my mental archives to talk about like some of my favorite games. I loved like the X-Wing TIE Fighter series that LucasArts made. I was also a big fan of like the Mech Warrior games. And those are all, what they have in common is basically it's imagining like sci-fi combat, but the name of those games is energy management and resource management during combat. Like you're constantly flipping levers to like change how much to engine, how much to guns, how much to shields. And that is what makes those games interesting. You're not just flying around shooting at things. You're like playing with all these little levers to change balances of how energy is being deployed. And so I think there's a high degree to which this version of F1 makes a lot of intrinsic sense to me, because it is making the F1 car a pool of resources that drivers are having to make really quick, frequent judgments about around the lap. They are not just trying to find the fastest racing line. They are constantly trying to tweak, okay, like now for this stage, for this moment, do I want more speed or do I want more recovery? It is a lot, in a lot of ways, the racing feels now like the F1 games some years ago. They made a change to simplify a lot of this stuff, because the drivers were like, we are not messing with battery settings nearly as much as these games portray. But I kind of liked it, because this is like around F1 2021, you'd be like corner by corner almost changing recovery settings. It was constantly like flipping those dials. And I think that now is what F1 is doing. Like if you get the helmet cam, you will see drivers now, they're always doing stuff on their wheels, but like now it really is, they're driving and they're twisting knobs and dials all the time. And I can understand why some people are going to find that a huge turnoff. I think that in a lot of ways, Max is very much in the mold of like a World War I like flying ace, where it's like you win the crate. It's a simple machine. It's all maneuvering. It's all feel for the craft. And I feel like this version of F1 is much more Top Gun.
And I feel like Lewis is more the other side, perhaps, because he seems to be really. I mean, obviously the car is doing well, but like even in preseason testing, he was more positive on a lot of this, and I can totally see how it's such a change in driving ethos. I guess it is very different.
Yeah. And sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say as well, just because there's we're all as a fan base sort of learning about this and figuring out how good or bad we feel about it, and it's kind of going all over the place. But like the other thing that I was thinking about a lot during this race is that by sort of bifurcating the power unit, by like creating sort of almost two tech races, what you've also done is sort of stopped somebody who has an advantage from having a really large advantage, unless they manage to nail both and everyone else messes up. So I think like you have cars now that are a little bit closer because, like, for instance, in a previous regulation, if like Mercedes had nailed the combust, you know, the engine part of it, and there was no battery, then they would be perhaps further ahead because of the delta between those. But because the battery aspect is also in here, there's sort of like two tech races that they have to go along. And I think that is creating a little bit more closeness within the field, and perhaps also creates two different tech research routes throughout the year. I'm not sure. That's just like something I'm spinning around in my head. But yeah, it's definitely, you know, it's weird. Race by race, we're feeling a lot of things about this because it feels different and new and scary. But at least in the sprint race, that's the best sprint race I've watched in a long time. Like sprint races,
I still think it's one of the better races. Like,
yeah,
and I think the fact you have Russell and Hamilton getting on the radio and being like, "This rocked," is usually
Leclerc
too.
Really
Leclerc too.
Yeah. Usually, sorry, I meant Leclerc. But yeah, he gets on the radio to Ferrari. He's like, "This is a blast. I love it."
That was fun.
Usually,
battle,
teammates get really pissed off when they run across each other on the track, and they're just able to dice it up that way, and it feels less fraught. I suspect because the cars feel more under their control, but like. They had this confidence to like hang it out side by side through these corners, and that is different than in previous years. And it might be a little artificial how we got there, but you know, as we pointed out, it's all artificial.
It's all exactly.
This is artificial, and it produces stuff that is fun to watch at home. And yes, admittedly, it does also scratch at a part of my brain that loves like a resource management tactics game layered onto
playing FTL
racing game. Yeah.
The only asterisk, I think, is the fact that the Mercedes have so much race pace. I think if that delta was closed, people would feel more positive about it. But the season's long, and hopefully they'll be able to close that gap.
Yeah, this is the sort of the upshot here.
Maybe they'll send manuals to all of their customer teams.
Well, everyone's going to get a nice long layoff, aren't they?
Yes, exactly. More on that later.
Basically, with all this fighting and using of boost and energy, it means that all of these three guys fighting, their lap times have been compromised, and therefore Antonelli is just streaking away up at the front. Lap 33, Ocon and Colapinto get into it. Ocon taking a real optimistic move up the inside after Colapinto runs a little wide after coming out of the pits. Both cars spin, carbon fiber everywhere. Ocon owns up to it immediately, saying over the radio that it was his fault. He's also given a 10-second penalty.
Growth, I feel. Previous editions of Ocon also would have been more of a prick about it and more combative. And ironically, though, I don't think it was as out of pocket as even the commentators or Ocon thought. Like, Ocon had so much more pace than Colapinto coming out of those pits. Like, I understand. It felt like the window was open. It felt like he could have gotten it done. And if he'd done it, he would have saved himself track position. And I had a lot of clear running. I think it was an okay risk to take. It wasn't just a total like brain fart dive bomb where you shouldn't have even tried it. I totally understood seeing it live. I was like, go, you can do it, Esteban. And you know, the problem is the switchback gets you because then you run out of road.
Yeah, if you break there, you're basically hitting somebody. So it's just like an unfortunate. Yeah, it's his fault more than it's anyone else's fault. But it wasn't like a crazy attempt. It's just a Colapinto close that door.
Yeah, you watch the onboard, you're like, oh yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it's like, no, please don't happen. Oh, that's a shame. You know,
it's also around here where Alonso retires from the race, saying that he was losing feeling in his hands and feet due to the heavy vibrations happening in that car.
Did you see him driving with his hands off the wheel?
Yeah, he had to like take them off and like flex his hands.
I don't know if that's okay. I don't know if that's a thing we should be doing at F1.
Yeah, I mean, remember when everything was porpoising and we were worried about the drivers' backs? The FIA had to step in and say, like, you can't oscillate this much for the driver's health.
Yeah, but you also, like, if your hands, like, pull over. If you can't hold the
I mean,
wheel.
he did.
He did eventually. Yeah.
But I can't remember the driver's hands being this, like, tortured by driving an F1 car. This is a bizarre... It's a bizarre car. Like, the ways in which it is bad. And it isn't... It's not suspension. It's something about, like, the resonance of the power unit and the chassis. It's a weird thing.
It's Adrian Newey's attempt to evolve these drivers. He's shaking their bones so aggressively that he's going to turn them into like the space jockeys or what.
The fossil records are going to wonder what happened at this team at a certain like their arms are so strangely developed.
They're going to be like guild navigators or whatever. You know what I mean? They're going to evolve into a sort of higher being. That's capable of piloting these very strange cars. Yeah.
Lance Stroll, X-Man.
Exactly.
Lap 36, Leclerc running in third has a lockup that allows Hamilton through, but then 3 laps later they are at it again. Leclerc swooping out from the slipstream and getting by into, I think it's the hairpin, but Hamilton stays close onto the start-finish straight. Leclerc defends to the inside, but Hamilton commits, and Leclerc does not have the grip to hang on around the outside, ceding third place to Hamilton. And it's there where he loses third place. He says, this is actually quite a fun battle.
Yeah.
It's kind of a side note here. It also has seemed to me, just by looking at the battery graphics over these few races, that Hamilton often has more juice than the others. I don't know if that's him or the car, although, battling his teammate, you would, maybe it is down to Hamilton's. Just something I'll be keeping an eye on this season. Lap 46, Verstappen going slowly. Sounds like he, from the onboard, only had his internal combustion engine. He sort of limps back to the pits to retire the car. And then it's just Antonelli trying to bring it home. A few laps from the end, he goes off the track after locking up at the hairpin. Later saying he gave himself a heart attack. He does recover and only loses a few seconds, staying ahead of Russell for the win of the Chinese Grand Prix. His first and becoming the second youngest winner ever. Verstappen being the first. And the first Italian to win a race since Giancarlo Fisichella in the 2006 Malaysian Grand Prix, which occurred 5 months before Antonelli was born.
Crazy.
Great to see his dad in the pits there hugging Bono. And Danny, you noticed something about the podium.
Oh my God, it was so funny. Yeah, they it's amazing. He's had his first win, such a young driver, and can't wait for his moment on the podium. And they announce, and here's your race winner, Kimi Räikkönen, and Hamilton just bursts out laughing and like gestures to Russell like what? Yeah, and Kimi also reacts to it. It's very funny. Yeah,
it's early in the season, so I guess stress is low. But this was one of the more good vibes, like podiums. That like it's all the recent McLaren boys, Mercedes boys up there. You saw that Toto flew back with Lewis and Valtteri and George and Susie and Carmen, and it took a cute photo from the plane. But like him and the old crew, and maybe also trying to shore up things with George. I don't know, but it was sweet seeing them. Antonelli seems very likable. You can't help but like root for what seems like a really, really sweet kid. I do think it was a little cringe of Toto to immediately get on the radio and do his fucking enemy building shit with Antonelli. He's too young. Don't put him in the Mercedes. All these like an imagined version of F1 discourse where everyone was like dragging Antonelli and saying he wasn't ready for this. I don't remember that. Like,
no,
it was clear he was being rushed to the front. We all knew that. We also all knew he was good. But Toto turning it into, yeah, man, you should be like Tom Brady. And like this sticks it to all those haters that were out there who didn't believe in you. It's like, Toto, you're just making people up, man.
Especially when Antonelli's like, I'm just here to learn from George.
I'm baby.
Yeah,
and everyone. there to learn. During the drivers' parades last year, he followed Max Verstappen around like a duckling. We talking on Drive to Survive, whispering to Lewis like, they're making me attend too many events. I'm tired. I want to go to bed. Like the thing that I think is very different about him than Verstappen is Verstappen, I think, came in big swinging dick energy here to disrupt things. Like, I'm the captain now. Antonelli, to your point, Drew, is very much more the modest, like, I'm here to learn and I'm excited to be here. And it's just different. It's a different style thing, different culture. But I feel like Antonelli's not a good fit for the Tom Brady-esque Toto Wolff, like, I'm counting every slight ever made against me and like gonna answer them on the track. That just ain't him.
Yeah. George Russell comes home second, and Lewis Hamilton rounding out the podium, his first for Ferrari. It's great seeing him back up there. Charles Leclerc fourth, Oliver Behrman in fifth, quietly having a fantastic start to his season. And same goes for Pierre Gasly, who finishes in sixth. Then we've got the Racing Bulls of Liam Lawson and the first of the Red Bulls, Isaac Hadjar, in eighth. Carlos Sainz in the Williams in ninth, and Franco Colapinto bringing home the last point in 10th. Behind them, Nico Hülkenberg, Arvid Lindblad, Valtteri Bottas, Esteban Ocon, 15th place Sergio Perez, the last of the runners. And after the race, they put his car up on a dolly, and it nearly drifted into an Alpine while it was. Oh, wow. Well, after everyone had gotten out of it, but a mechanic jumped up and saved it from crashing into the other car, which is visible on the Radio Rewind video that F1 put up on their channel. And if you haven't watched, or if you're one of these people that just watch the highlights, after you watch the race highlights, they put it up a little later. Worth going back and watching the Radio Rewind, which includes a lot of kind of unseen onboard videos and radio that you don't get to hear or see on the broadcast, and it's edited in a very cohesive way that is almost like an alternate angle on the race. And then we've got the not classified drivers of Max Verstappen, Fernando Alonso, and Lance Stroll, the DNFs, and then the DNSs of Piastri, Norris, Bortoleto, and Albon. And that's your Chinese Grand Prix. I completely forgot to do an ad break.
You sure did. I was waiting for you to realize it was very funny.
So
I'll just stick one in there somewhere.
All right, great. Let's get to the news, though. We got a few quick hits here before we round this thing out. Danny, we mentioned it at the top.
Yeah, as suspected, because of America and Israel's war of aggression in the Middle East and the Iranian regime's retort to that, which has left the whole region in a, and now we've South Lebanon being invaded. It's just as a little side pot.
Well, Israel likes to do that every few years.
Oh yeah,
Lebanon gets to rebuild. And then Israel destroys whatever infrastructure.
We're probably also doing a little bit of action in the West Bank and Gaza while everyone's eyes are, otherwise occupied. But anyway,
stuff to that effect. Yep.
Yeah. So obviously the Middle East is in turmoil at the moment. Several locations which are set to have Grand Prix both in April and later in the year are currently being, attacked by Iran. So they have, unsurprising to everyone, managed to cancel the Bahrain Grand Prix scheduled for April 12th and also the Jeddah Grand Prix for April 19th. Obviously, Saudi Arabia is much further, but there are places in Saudi being
the issue is that some of the Houthi rebel activity does affect Red Sea coast as well.
Right.
So when this war widened, this is why everyone's really convinced we're about to see huge supply chain shocks, because if the Strait exiting the Red Sea comes under attack, Strait of Hormuz is oil leaving the Gulf. Straight through the Red Sea is Suez shipping leaving the region.
It's where the canal comes out, right?
So both of those could conceivably be cut in the coming weeks if they haven't done already. Hormuz is. I don't know about the Red Sea. But yeah, so the war has widened, and it means Jeddah would be less secure in addition to all this stuff. And there's kind of layers to this. We've talked before about how F1's decision to take the Gulf state petro money at every turn and make that increasingly like center of F1. That decision is sort of boomeranging on them here because the region's always been unstable for these reasons. It's just kind of been pretend that that it is not a geopolitical hotspot. The other thing is
we've had Bahrain was cancelled in 2011 when the Saudi tanks came over the bridge to quell civil unrest. We had was it an oiler? Something got hit by a missile when we were at Jeddah 2 years ago as well. Do you remember that? That was a Houthi attack as well, wasn't it? So. Yeah. This isn't this isn't some new flavor that's occurring here.
And I think obviously our politics on this podcast are pretty left, but also I tend to be I find military shit interesting, and I tend to follow a lot of that. And even if you set aside what you feel morally about this is so clearly a shit show in terms of how this war has been planned, run.
Oh yeah.
Which makes me really skeptical that all of this is going to be back to business as usual by the end of the season when the calendar returns for the final races of the season. When it returns to the Gulf, because it is evident at this point there was no real consideration of what the obvious counter moves were going to be or how this could spiral. And there's no real strategy for a condition of victory. So
there's no strategy for replacing these Grand Prix.
No. So on that point, let me sort of finish the roundup here. There are no substitutions being made in April for this. Apparently, according to some reporters in China this week, they had attempted to look into stuff like Portimao, some other European locations. God, I wish we were going back to. Could you imagine these cars? Talk about this being MotoGP. Imagine these cars at Portimao. Oh my God. That'd be pretty good. So what effectively this means is that we're going to have a huge gap in the F1 calendar for basically all of April. But it also means that they are leaving the door open to possibly rescheduling these races later down the road. Now, I am with Rob. I think that is an optimistic look at what is likely to be an extended period of warfare in this part of the world, which obviously then, I have friends in Dubai I've been texting for the past couple of weeks because they are getting hit by missiles. That city is. Abu Dhabi is obviously just up the road. It's right there on the Persian Gulf. Qatar, similar situation, the race prior to that. And honestly, Baku, Azerbaijan is involved in this and has gotten hit as well. So this could be, this could be bigger. I'm not trying to say that we could end up losing 5 races, and obviously ultimately all of this pales in comparison to the loss of human life and everything that's happening across the region. But this is a massive hit for F1. They're losing hundreds of millions off of these cancelled races too. And honestly, I'm wondering, is there going to be some class action stuff about, Apple TV or something? We're not getting 24 races. You know what I mean? There's lots of fallout from this. That there's going to be contracts that are signed with sponsors. There's going to be payments to people. All this sort of stuff.
I wouldn't be surprised if you see some prorating with some of the F1 TV or Apple stuff.
I think that happened during COVID or something. That I remember there being a kickback or something.
Because they'll want to shore up and not create bad vibes, but race organizers, the money tied up in that, the teams looking for their payouts at the end of the year, all this is going to hit them. The other thing that, again, this is not important stuff in the scheme of the world, but if you're Mercedes, this seems like really bad news because you have such a window of opportunity here to bag points early in the season. And now you're about to lose 2 races, and everyone's now not going to be having resources devoted to traveling to those races, which means you're going to have a lot of teams having an opportunity to crash development to sort of retool and prepare for narrowing that gap as the season goes on. This is going to affect the arc of that.
Yeah, and Mercedes wings are getting clipped halfway through the year with their compression ratio advantage.
Yeah, we'll
going
see
away.
how much of an advantage that was.
Just to finally close off the news here with something we touched on in the previous episode, F1 was going to reassess the rules after having seen how the Chinese Grand Prix went. That they've now pushed that to Miami. I think because they're feeling a little better about how the Chinese Grand Prix went off.
It's also going to be very weird to bring in. I mean, we have Japan coming up next before any of this, but it would also be weird to introduce new rules and then have a huge gap in the schedule. I feel like it's probably not ideal.
Drivers' Championship standings. George Russell is on top, followed by Kimi Antonelli, Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, and Oliver Behrman jumping up 2 spots into 5th place. Then we've got Lando Norris, last year's champion, in 6th. Pierre Gasly moves up 3 spots into 7th. Max Verstappen in 8th. Liam Lawson 9th. And Arvid Lindblad in 10th. Then we've got Hadjar, Piastri, Sainz, Bortoleto, Colapinto, and Ocon in 16th. Then Hulkenberg, Albon, Bottas, and Perez, Alonso, and Stroll. The last 7 of those with 0 points. In the constructors' standings, Mercedes is on top with 98. Ferrari is currently 31 points back in 2nd, and McLaren 49 points away from Ferrari in 3rd. Gene Haas and team, they move up 1 spot to 4th place in the Constructors' Championship with 17 points. That's 5 points ahead of Red Bull in 5th, tied on points with Racing Bulls. Embarrassing. Alpine is now moved up into 7th place. Audi in 8th. Williams tied on points with Audi at 2 points apiece in 9th. Then the zeros of Cadillac and Aston Martin. In our fantasy league, which you can join using the link in the show notes from the Chinese Grand Prix, we have Andrea Kimi Gibbler.
Nice.
In 3rd. In 2nd is F1 banned my team name.
Wow, they're back.
They're back. There's an underscore in this one at the end. Maybe it was an exclamation point that was banned. And in 1st, F1 the movie, the game. Did anyone see
I like that.
Nirvana the band, the show, the movie?
I'm a huge Nirvana the band, the show fan. I saw the movie at a preview screening last year with the 2 Nirvana members. Ben Pack was also in the audience that day.
Oh,
too.
incredible.
I ran into Ben. I had a bunch of John Bond people. So.
What is this? Because this sounds like a piss take.
So Nirvana the band, the show, is a show that was started in Canada.
Well, Nirvana the band
Nirvana
is it was like a web series. Like a
Yes.
comedy, 2 guys, like a comedy web troupe.
Yeah, who are trying to get this gig at this local Canadian spot. And then they had a show which was largely pushed by Viceland for a few years. And then eventually they finished the show. It went through a couple of different sort of broadcasty spots. It is a mockumentary style.
Okay. It has nothing to do with the band Nirvana that we
No.
all know.
No, this
It's
is
a-
the joke.
Okay, this is the part that was
deliberate-
throwing me.
Yeah.
So the
Okay,
joke
this is Spinal Tap.
the joke about the show is that it is a mockumentary and they basically play as close to the line with fair use as is possible. So there are entire episodes where the narrative is wrapped around a film where they are like, we're allowed to play the Jurassic Park music, the theme music, because we have it like incorporated into the narrative of this episode, which
Gotcha.
accounts for fair use. So, but it's mockumentary style, so it is genuinely one of the funniest TV shows I've watched in my entire life. The famous We Shop Wednesday meme that goes around where they're singing the song about the Wii eShop is from that TV show and a bunch of other stuff. It's really good. And then the movie is, I knew nothing about it going into it.
Don't say anything about it.
So I'm not
People
going to
should
say
just
anything
go see
here.
it. Yeah.
You should go see it. It is absolutely brilliant. It was the funniest movie I've seen in a cinema in years. It's absolutely great. And the TV show is brilliant. You should check out Nirvana the band. They're brilliant.
Overall, in the fantasy league, in 3rd, F1 banned my team name. And we've got a tie at the lead between, we've got another music fan here. Cadillac.
What's that a reference to?
A
Billy Joel.
Billy Joel song.
Okay.
And Also tied for first, Bald Eagle Energy.
Wow.
Love it.
Lots of Cadillac love. Lots of America love.
Indeed, you can send us your love at shiftf1podcast@gmail.com or f1.cool/emails. You can also hit us up on the socials using the link in the show notes. That's us around the internet. Danny, you want to take it around the world?
Let's race around the world. Yeah.
The NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series is in Darlington.
Oh, boy.
This weekend for the Buckle Up South Carolina 200.
Buckle up.
The Moto GP Series, which the aforementioned, is in Goiânia, which is almost certainly exactly how you pronounce it, in Brazil, at the Autodromo Internacional Ayrton Senna for the Grand Prix of Brazil. Formula E is in Madrid for the Madrid Prix. The IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship is at Sebring for the 12 Hours of Sebring. The NASCAR O'Reilly Series is also in Darlington for the Sport Clips Haircuts VFW Help a Hero 200.
Jesus, well, they had to go all in on that one.
Motocross Grand Prix is at Circuito de Motocross Almonte in España for the Motocross Grand Prix of Spain.
Nice.
The NHRA is in Chandler, Arizona.
Wow. Could
these cars be any louder?
Oh.
For the FMP Arizona Nationals.
God damn it.
And we got NASCAR.
Yeah.
Also in the hallowed grounds of Darlington for the Goodyear 400.
I'm more of a Ross guy.
And that's us. That's it for the weekend, Danny. But what happened this day in history?
He was on a break. What happened this day in history? March 17th, St. Patrick's Day. Although I think this is an English fella. He wrote about. He didn't mention Ireland. Typical. After a good 2001 season for Williams, when the team picked up 4 victories, they were expected to push on in 2002 and challenge Ferrari for both championships. Today in 2002, Ralf Schumacher led home Juan Pablo Montoya for a Williams 1-2 at the Malaysian Grand Prix at Sepang. I miss Malaysia. Malaysia and Turkey. There's some good ones. Great food, too. Can you imagine going to Malaysia and Turkey? Oof. My God. The meats. No one knew it at the time, but the race was one of only 2 that Ferrari did not win all season in a truly dominant year for the Maranello squad. The other was a David Coulthard victory for McLaren at Monaco. Further down the field, Takuma Sato committed the cardinal sin for any racing driver by running into the back of his teammate Giancarlo Fisichella. The 2 Jordan cars. Oh, okay. We got some Irish in here. The two Jordan cars had to pit, and though both were eventually repaired and sent back out, any hope of a points finish was long gone.
Speaking of Ireland and podium snafus, isn't it the case where the first podium for Jordan, or the first win for Jordan, they played the British Grand Prix?
I think I forget the exact
national anthem.
So I think the first, I could be wrong, I forget the order. The first podium Jordan got was either the first or second one, was awarded after the ceremony because somebody was, they got
DQ'd.
promoted up to it.
Okay.
Yeah. I think, I forget which order they're in. Another time we did it, they played God Save the Queen because they didn't have like Aaron Levine on tape, which honestly, fair enough. I don't know. Like, I wouldn't be playing the English national anthem, you know what I mean? But, you know, them not having our national anthem, which is largely about running over a hill and killing a bunch of Brits, is you know, it hadn't happened up until that point, so I get it. But yeah, so I forget. Maybe it was in the other order that happened. I forget. And did they have 2 or 3? I also forget that. But yeah, we've had some, you know, drivers and a lot of Irish people involved in the sport. So, you know, engineers at various teams, and you know, obviously we've got some Irish fellas in F2 and F3 at the moment as well, which we'll get to talk about if we do that F2 primer. I think it'd be good fun. Talk about Alex Dunn and everyone else.
All right. Well, speaking of good fun, we'll be back next week for our Japan show, and then question marks. I mean, we'll do the post-Japan show too, but we'll figure something out. Final thoughts here after the second race weekend of the season, Danny.
Yeah, what was your form book for China? Do you have it there? It was decent.
I can open it up.
Because China, that was a decent Chinese Grand Prix, I'd say. Because like we have run into problems with that straight in some years, not all years, but there have been some years where it became a real.
So you're not asking the form book. You're asking about Drew's start rating.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
So the
not
track
the form
reviews.
book.
Yes.
the track
I've
reviews.
rated them 2 out of 4 the last 2 years.
Yeah. So like I this was good. This was definitely a 3. You know what I mean? At
And
least.
yes, absolutely. And looking forward to Japan, I've rated that a 2, a 2, and a 1.
That's got a lot of weird corners. You know what I mean?
So
that's got a lot
fascinating
of
to see.
strange turns. So it'll be fun to watch
Suzuka
the
has
cars.
sucked for a few years with the old cars. But
It has.
I
It
am
has.
hopeful
Too
that
big.
this is going to restore it to glory.
Yeah, we'll see. A lot of uphill
Final-
racing too.
Final thoughts, Rob.
Happy as a clam. Really pleased with how this season is unfolding. Bummed we're not going to get these upcoming races, both because of the horrible reasons that's the case, and also, like, I have been having a blast with this season. So, I guess the flip side of this, and this is going to be kind of a weird thing. We're going to watch after Japan, the next one's Miami, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be in Miami for that. So that's gonna be kind of a goofy experience where my big F1 layoff is going to be ended by heading down to Miami to check out the GP because a friend of mine from elementary school, probably a person I know since, somebody who tried to help me cheat my way into the gifted and talented program, literally reached out and was like, well, and this is interesting. One of the reasons that he reached out was that it seems like, I don't know if this is true of every race, but they have an incentive program to have you re-up your ticket order. And so he, the first year he and family and friends had gone, they got a big block of tickets and everyone went. And this year, not everyone could go, but you'd be losing that huge retention discount if you gave up the block. So he kept them and now he had tickets to give away. I'm curious if that's standard across the other races or
Interesting.
I don't know, maybe Miami has retention concerns that other circuits don't. It certainly seems like, Drew, you were thinking about going to Monaco. Certainly seems like they're not worried about people being concerned about money.
Yeah, limited space there, isn't there?
Yeah. We'll see. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening. If you'd like to support the show and get access to all of our bonus episodes, the early ad-free version of the podcast, and the official Shift F1 Discord, you can do so over at patreon.com/ShiftF1. Have a great race weekend, everyone. We will see you all next week.